So if we as entrepreneurs are taking ownership, taking responsibility for those things and healing our wounding and our traumas and, getting our kind of our thoughts and beliefs, straightened out, and we are aligned with a higher purpose of some higher power working through us, and we're in the present moment, and we're using our mind as a tool, but we're driven by heart or solar plexus or purpose or something deeper. Well, then we can really, really make some change here.
Welcome to the Creative Chats Podcast with Mike Brennan. Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Creative Chats. I am your host, Mike Brennan, and this is the podcast where we talk about creativity, the creative process, and story. And I love to unpack these things mostly with my guests and explore how we can apply these things to our own creative processes and journeys. Now, I would love to also invite you to subscribe to the Daily Creative Habit email newsletter. Nobody needs more emails, I get that. But this email that I send out once a week is packed with some inspiration, some resources. I give daily creative prompts for you if you're looking for something to get you out of the rut, to kind of get the juices flowing. Perfect for you. Also, we have a community over on Facebook that is called Daily Creative Habit as well. And I would love for you just to be taking a step to be a part of that community. Come around people who are like-minded, raising their hands to say, I want to show up more consistently for my creativity and craft. So if that's you, head on over to dailycreativehabit.com and you'll find all those resources there. Hey, I'd also love to invite you to check out my book, Make Fun a Habit. It's the creative playbook for making life and work fun again. If you have felt like fun has up and left the building somewhere along the way, I think we all do at some point, you find yourself centering around some practicality and responsibility and all the adulting words. If you need a little bit more fun in your life, in your work, in your experience, then I want to invite you to grab a copy of my book. It's 30 short chapters that give you some inspiration, some practical application, and exercises so that you can start to experience some more fun in and around your life. Go to makefunahabit.com and grab your copy today. Hey, my guest today is Calvin Correli. He is the founder and CEO of Simplero, as well as a speaker and author, investor, and a spiritual business coach. We talk today about not only entrepreneurship, but also a lot of things underneath the hood of like purpose and meaning and some things that affect how we show up to do what we do. So without further ado, here is my creative chat with Calvin Correli. Well, Calvin, welcome to the Creative Chats podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. I always love exploring people's stories and journeys, finding out more about them and just their process and creative projects, all that stuff. So we're going to get into that. But before we go too far into things, I always love just to ask my guests, like in your own words, you're at a party or someplace and somebody comes up to you and is like, hey, nice to meet you. Who are you? What do you do? Like, what's your answer to that?
It depends from moment to moment. I don't know if you're the same. I don't have a fixed answer to that, but I like to think of myself as creating products and services that have a little bit of that like God spark in them and bringing them to people. I'm sick of like bland products and services out there in the marketplace. I want to bring something out there that has, some. I think I heard Steve Jobs express it as like a spirit of enlightenment about them. That's like what I'd like to do. Something that's like, you're like, whoa, there's a little bit more life there than I thought, that I was expecting. Yeah.
And there's more connection, there's more personality, and probably some more purpose-driven things, right?
Yeah. And intimacy is a huge word for me that I've really realized lately. It was just a few months ago that I had a session with one of my mentors, and he was like, Calvin, I'm like listening to you and it sounds like intimacy. And I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. Like that's what drives me. And it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, you're allowed to have that as your thing in business. Like you don't have to go and be do business, like, oh, I can just like have my business be all about intimacy and that's okay. And like, yeah, you can. All right, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. It's great when we have those discoveries and we can then contextualize it and go and own it and say, this is something that's important to me. This is something that helps me show up as me in the midst of
Mm-hmm.
all the things that I do and all the people
Yeah,
that I interact with, regardless if it's personal, professional, whatever. It's me being
exactly.
me. I love
Yeah.
that. I'm curious. You must have had some experience as to why creating things to that level, where there's that spark, there's that personality to it. Like, why is that important to you?
Because why not? Because like if we're spending all this energy putting together in products and services, whatever it is, from a cup of coffee to a software product to like a container ship or whatever, like if we're doing it anyway, why not put a little bit of that love into it? Like it doesn't cost us anything extra, but it feels amazing to do it. And it feels amazing to the person receiving it. And as they receive it, it feels amazing to us. Anyway, that's how I'm wired. I get that not everybody's necessarily wired that way, but I think we kind of are. It's just that a lot of people have been numbed out from
Mhm.
noticing that, right? And it's just like, well, this is the way it is, and we just gotta like, no, it's not. It's like it really can be different. I took my so I was born and raised in Denmark, and so moving to the States some years ago, I had to retake my driver's license because the U.S. doesn't recognize the driver's license of any other country other than I think Canada or something. And then so you have to take it over again. And the I forget what it's called, but like the person evaluating me from the state, she was like the most miserable person I remember seeing like in a long time. And so I came in there, get in the car and I was like, hey, how's your day going? She's like, you're about to take your license test and you're worried about how my day's going. You should worry about how your day's going. I was like, okay, like never mind. And she was just so negative. At, like I had kind of nightmares about her after, but it's just a reflection of like, oh, lady, like quit. Like if you hate your job so much, like go find something that you will love, right? There's
Mhm.
something for you. Like go do that and enjoy doing it. Like if you're gonna be a maid at a hotel, like choose that because you freaking love just tidying it up and just leaving
Mhm.
little surprises, little like moments of delight for your guests, right? Like it's if not, like find something else where you can do that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Was this something that was always important to you and that you knew from early on, or was this something that was born out of like you were in those environments that were not like that, where they weren't allowing for really more purpose and spark, and they were drudgery, and that forced you to go, hey, this is not for me. Like
Mhm.
what give us a little context for your experience regarding that.
I think I was always wired that way, and most of my life felt bland, and I kind of felt like an outsider. I think a lot of entrepreneurs and creatives like have that
Yeah.
feeling. It's like, are we like aliens or are they the aliens? Like we're like from a different planet. I don't quite get this thing. Um, and but the moment it really hit me was in 2008. Um, I was, we just bought a house that we couldn't afford because this technicality where the house was like we didn't own the land under the house. We owned the house, but the land was actually rented from the government on a 99-year lease and to like a collection of houses. And then anyway, so it's like complicated. So that we couldn't get a regular mortgage. We had to get a bank loan, which we couldn't afford. And then we ended up borrowing from my dad. And just our second child, my son, had just been born, and we were completely broke. And we could like the winter and boiler. I've never had a boiler before. It didn't have any oil, and you couldn't just order an oil truck to come because it was like these tiny little roads. So you had to get a special one that only came once. It was like total nightmare. It was one of the and at the same time, like I was the breadwinner, and I had a software consulting firm that I built up to 13 people and worked with MIT and Greenpeace International and like big institutions, and then scaled it all back down to just me and one client, which was Greenpeace that I'm still working for. And then they called me and said, "Hey, we've decided to outsource this work to India. So sorry. And then like scrambling to find other work. And I had like 5 different projects that were all like either contractually signed or were like verbally agreed to. And then they all just blow up in spectacular fashions, like co-founders falling out with each other's and like all kinds of crazy shit. And it was one of those moments like, okay, God, universe, life, whatever this is like, is now the time for me to figure out what I want to do in my life. Like I'm here to create what my purpose is. And I decided, yes, that was exactly what was happening. And it was during that process that one of the questions was about like, what kind of moments during my childhood, my school years, my college time, my work life after college, like what were some of the moments that really stood out to me? And one of those moments was me being part of the party committee at college, where we'd be part of that group that threw the parties. And I loved that. Like, I don't like going to parties, but I loved throwing the party. And I especially liked being behind the bar and serving drinks to people. Now, this being in Denmark in the 90s, this was not like a modern, like, classic cocktail mixology kind of bar. We had 2 products. They were one kind of beer and the other kind of beer. Carlsberg and Tuborg, like the 2 big brands of beer. That fun story, Denmark has like these 2 big brands and they always fighting. It's like, oh, I'm a Carlsberg person. I'm a Tuborg person. Carlsberg sucks. No, Tuborg sucks. And it's the same damn company, right? They used to be separate, but now they're both Carlsberg owns the whole thing. So anyway, but I would just serve, people would come and they would ask for a Carlsberg or Tuborg, and so 10 kroner, which is our currency over there. And it's like just a coin. It's a very easy transaction. But I would serve that beer with so much presence, so much love, so much intentionality, so much intimacy that like, I got a fucking kick out of that, right? Just like, you didn't expect, like you're at a party. It's such a simple thing. You're just like, yeah, give me a Tuborg. He's like, well, but I'm there to have a moment of intimacy if you're open to it. And it's just surprising. I love that. Like it's not where you expect it and it's not what you expect, but it's like, oh shit, like there's someone home, right? Someone's home here. Yeah. And so that I think I've always been wired that way, but it's something that was the moment where I realized, oh shit, this is really a driving force for me.
Yeah. And, once you have identified that, you can really show up with intention and purpose and really maximize that for how you show up and the kind of connections that are made, right? It's funny, as you're talking about these things, I'm thinking about even myself and like the things that I create, it doesn't really feel complete unless there's a connection made with somebody. And the times in my life when I felt not aligned in the work I was doing was really when I was creating something and I didn't get to see what happened after it got shipped. Like I didn't get to see the end user experiencing something that I did or had my hand in and how it impacted them. Like that's important to me. And knowing that's important to me, I was like, oh, I need to make sure that when I create things, that is part of the process of me creating, because it doesn't feel like it's done until that moment,
Yeah. I love that. It's beautiful. And that actually, I just turned 50 this week, 2 days ago. And I'm notoriously impossible to buy presents for, right? Because the moment I know that I want something, I'll just go buy it. It's way easier than like wish list. And then maybe I get it, maybe I don't. Then I have to go buy it after. It's like complicated. So my team is all like, they were like, we need to do something for Calvin's birthday. And they were struggling. So I reached out to my wife and she had this phenomenal idea. So the day before my birthday, on Tuesdays, we have our all hands call on the team. And, we go through an agenda and then they just hijacked that meeting to be like, stop, Calvin, like we have something. And what they did was they a bunch of them, like a half dozen of them, shared the impact that working here had on them. And especially was one guy, Angel, one of my junior engineers, and I never hire junior engineers generally. But I hired him. He's in Venezuela, which is communist defunct state practically. He's a medical doctor, but like it's really hard to make a living that way in Venezuela. So he got into one of those like codings schools, like a short term. I think it was like a 3 month or 6 month program or something, accelerator kind of thing. I never hire people out of those programs because they're usually shit. Like I just need people who are more experienced. I don't have the time or the patience for people who are early in his journey, because he's a little bit different. He had something. I was like, dude, I really like you. Let's bring you on. And then like he had a lot to learn, but he's been super coachable and it's just been amazing. And so him talking about the impact that it had on him, like now they can live in a decent place, they can have a baby, and they can, like, it's impact on him, but his immediate family, and then like his extended family. And I got teary eyed, and I just realized at a deeper level again, like it's not the money, right? It's not like get like, of course we need to perform as a team and get the projects done and quality and all that stuff. And I love that too. But like really what touches me is that seeing the impact. And I do a team training with my team once a week as well, where I teach them like about emotional maturity and like all kinds of healing stuff, or like Napoleon Hill things, or like whatever. More like 95% of it is that kind of stuff versus like business things. Because I just want to pour into my people. Like my company is all about that growth, right? So, and one of them was sharing, Liz was sharing about how like she'd really taken all these things to heart in her personal life, and it, not just her, but the people around her were impacted by it, and it was like spreading having this ripple effect. And I was just like, thank you guys for sure. Like, this is why I didn't know how much that meant to me until I heard them say that and felt the impact of it.
Yeah. It's so amazing when you have those opportunities. And unfortunately they seem to be rare when you can look behind the curtain a little bit and get somebody's perspective and experiences of things that have been really impactful on their lives, that have direct correlation to what it is that you do and how you show up. That is a gift for sure.
And one of the greatest gifts is to actually give that to someone.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So when you take the time to actually reach out and to be like, hey, Mike, I listened to your podcast now for a month, and I just want to say how much I appreciate what you're sharing. And this thing that you said, like, really touched me, and I've actually changed this in my life. And like, that's a huge blessing for people to actually take the time to share that, right?
Yeah. Most of the time people are too busy, or then there's too many things, or I don't think we've done a really good job in society in nurturing that. Like, listen to those prompts. When you get that sense of, hey, even like, I need to say I love you more, or I need to reach out to somebody because they're on my mind. Maybe they're going through something I don't even know. And just me saying, hey, I was thinking about you today. I hope everything's going good in your world. I'd love to connect soon, whatever. Like, those moments can really be life-changing and an encouragement. And yet too often we either underplay and think, wow, I'm busy, I'm sidetracked, or what is that really going to do, or whatever. And so I love that we're talking about this too, because it's creating moments, it's creating experiences for people. And that is certainly a form of creativity, I think, that many people don't think about,
Yeah. I think a lot of people too is like, well, I don't matter. Like, my voice doesn't matter. Like, well, Mike is so sure of himself and cool. Like, he doesn't need me. Like, who am I? Like, he's got it all together. So he probably doesn't care.
It's like, no, if you only really saw the whole picture, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I had the blessing. I had a teacher in first grade through fourth grade that was one of those people. I didn't feel safe really at home. I didn't really feel seen or connected at home. And like, intimacy and connection is huge for me, as you can see here. But she was one of two people in my life where I really felt the connection and intimacy was there. So I was like so grateful that she was there. And I remember the day she left, she said goodbye. She went like to every single person, in like 28 of us in that class, and just said goodbye and said some really loving words and like personal goodbye to everybody. Like, nobody else did that. And I just remembered her always. And then in 2008, around the same time that the other thing that I shared about like um, the bartending happened, I was really in a shitty place in my life. And again, I had created a marriage and a family life where I didn't feel safe in my own home, and or seen. And so, and then randomly one day I read the obituary in the paper, and I never read the obituaries. But this day I did, and I saw that her husband had passed away. I knew his name because he was a member of the government at some point. He was the minister of the treasury, and I'd never met him, but I knew his name. It was kind of a big deal. So I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, let me give her, a week or something to mourn. And then I looked her up and I found her website, and she's a coach. And I reached out to her and I was like, hey, are you the Edith that was my teacher in school? And she was like, yes, absolutely, I am. And like, oh my God, I'd love to meet you. And so I went to see her, and it was the most beautiful thing ever. We're close friends today still. And it's just for her to see, like, here's this kid that I had, 30 some 40, I forget, like 35 years ago or something, and now he's here, right? 30, I don't know how many years it is, I have to do math, but and he comes and like and appreciates what you did for him back then, right? That's pretty magical. And apparently like a handful of other people reached out around the same time. And what she did too was she was like, oh, like I told her a little bit about how I was feeling, what was going on. She was like, here's a key to my office. Just come anytime, as much as you want. Like, here's how the coffee maker works. Here's how the dishwasher works. Just like, you have a place here anytime you need to get away from home. And just, because I was working from home. And it's such a beautiful gesture. And it was really magical.
Yeah. And it's it's interesting because as I'm listening to your part of your story unfolding, I'm wondering, like, the things that you create, are they really vehicles for you to have these experiences with people and to create things that make those connections?
Yeah.
Is that the driving force behind all the things that you do?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is. And including the intimacy with self. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about awareness that is very powerful. And I think some people get nervous when you bring that up because they're like, oh, this is too much about me. It's, we shouldn't be talking about whatever. But I think there's a level when you're self-aware what's happening inside of you, you're thinking about checking in with yourself and going, where are the places that I need help? Where are the places I need to grow or work on? Let me know myself enough so that I know my motivations. I know what's important to me. I know my values, all these different things. I think if you don't get to that place where you're that aware and you have that agency over yourself, it's very hard to show up in life and have a real direction and purpose, and to really create things that have any great magnitude beyond this is a product or this is a service. I think, as I'm processing your story and stuff, looking for those areas and going, okay, here's connection points. This is the ability for me to have the intimacy. What other things, you've shared a little bit about your journey so far, and of course we've got Simplero. Tell us a little bit about, like, where did that come from and how did that develop into what it is today, and how did you like inject that in? Was it from the beginning that was foundational for you to go, okay, it needs to have that sort of intimacy, that connection, or did that kind of develop over time?
It came out of that same session with where I discovered the thing about like how the bartending experience. And as I sat down and answered these questions for myself about like what activities I loved and things like that, it popped out for me that I'm here to integrate spirituality and entrepreneurship. And it was like such a clear like feeling. It was almost like a download of like, that's what I'm fucking here to do. And like I can see, well, the all the challenges that we're facing in as a humanity, as society, are best solved by entrepreneurs, right? They're not solved by governments. They're not solved by NGOs. They're solved by entrepreneurs who create products and services that are solutions to problems that people face. Now, oftentimes when that happens, there are negatives to that, right? There are side effects, there are externalities, there are costs to it. But most, they usually come out of the entrepreneur's kind of dark side, shadow side, right? All the unprocessed, unhealed stuff. So if we as entrepreneurs are taking ownership, taking responsibility for those things and healing our wounding and our traumas, and getting our kind of our thoughts and beliefs straightened out, and we are aligned with a higher purpose of some higher power working through us, and we're in the present moment, and we're using our mind as a tool, but we're driven by heart or solar plexus or purpose or something deeper, well, then we can really fucking make some hay here, like not hay, but really make some change here. And that was kind of the complete picture that I saw. And and we get an investment fund where we invest in companies based around this. So instead of supporting founders, or in addition to supporting founders with strategies and tactics and marketing thing and how to all the practicalities of it, let's actually really help evolve these people as humans and help them with overcome their shit, their issues and all that stuff. And immediately I saw this is something that I need to teach to other entrepreneurs, because every other entrepreneur I know struggles with the same stuff, just to varying degrees, right? Some people are wired in a way where their survival strategy is going to have them be extremely successful in financial terms, but they're not fulfilled inside. Other people have a survival strategy that keeps having them trip over themselves, and they're not going to have a lot of success, financial success in business, but they might be wired for fulfillment. So we got to straighten whatever that is out so that we can have both the financial and the fulfillment side of things. And so I was I need to teach this. And how do I do that? I have no idea. I created a software company. I'm a software engineer. I don't know anything about I'd heard the word seminar, but I wasn't sure what it meant. I was I don't know anything about this world. So I started Googling, and that's when I discovered online courses and online marketing and that whole world. And, against my better judgment, I signed up for someone, because I was tech background, and we techies, we look at all that stuff of making money online. It's just it just screamed scamminess, right? I was okay, let me hold my nose. I'll buy one of these things. It was $2,000. It was literally on my birthday in 2008. And it was one of those things where if I go to bed now, tomorrow morning when I wake up, it's going to be too late, because it's cart close, they call it, right? It's
yeah.
All right, let me do it. And bought that thing. I was okay, yeah, I can do this. Because the other piece was I was scared of humans. I think most programmers get most of the best programmers, we get to be really good programmers because we're scared of humans. And so we're emotionally broken people. We retreat into computers because they're safe and we can control them and we feel powerful there. But human beings are a little scary. They're unpredictable and they make us feel shit and stuff. So I was great. I can do an online course. I don't have to stand in front of people and and be exposed and vulnerable in that way. And so that's what I did. And then as I did that, I realized, the software world around that is complicated. You need one thing for the website, another thing for your email, and then something for your shopping cart, and then something for your videos and your courses and your membership site, and So I started just building that for myself, for my other business, for my own business, and then other people wanted to use it, and then that turned into Simplero. And it's the same exact problem you solve today.
Yeah, I love it because it was solving your own problem.
Yeah.
And it was something that you were clearly invested in because you knew firsthand, here are the pain points, here are the things that people are going to encounter. Yeah. And you're able to speak from the experience and from having to solve those problems. So,
yeah.
And in terms of bringing the business and the spirituality together, how have you found resistance with that? I mean, certainly there are certain people who are going to be wired to be more receptive of that. But there are other people I know, like I can think of even a few personally that I know, who are maybe a little bit more, that's a little too woo woo. That's a little
Mm.
too, let's keep that over here and we'll keep business over there. And,
Yeah.
like what do you say to those people, or how do you engage with them to help them understand?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't give a fuck these days, right? Like I'm for the people who want what I got, and the rest of them can do whatever they want to do. But no, I totally felt the resistance. And so initially, excuse me, in 2008 in Copenhagen, there was zero market for entrepreneurs who wanted the spiritual stuff. Like that wasn't a thing. Um, so I honestly thought that I was the person in the world who made this connection for the first time. I later learned I wasn't, but I remember looking at Amazon for books on the topic, and I could find one book, and it was kind of like weak and sketchy and stuff. There's nothing on this topic. It wasn't a thing. I think I later learned that Gay Hendricks had actually written something on, like a manuscript on it, that had kind of, it was never published proper. Like you can't find it, but I got access. I found a PDF of it somewhere. But so it's not, I wasn't the first person to think this, obviously, but it wasn't a thing. And so what I did instead was, because I was studying all this marketing stuff, what people did want was they wanted more clients, they wanted more business, they wanted to make more money. So let me teach that, and then I'll bring the spirituality in as part of that process, right? Because it inevitably does become part of that, because every business problem is really a personal problem that shows up in business. And every personal growth journey always ends as a spiritual journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time. So
that's powerful.
It is, but it's true, right? Like, so the people, like, you just talk business stuff, and then all the other stuff just automatically comes in if you're open to it, if you're looking for it, if you're looking for kind of root cause, like to address the root causes of the problem, like you just end up there again and again. Yeah. And once you do, like the execution of it becomes so much simpler. Like one of the things that I've been like, we all have this filter of some sort on the world, like in our mind, that is like, I'm not enough, or I'm not safe, or I'm not wanted, or I'm not like whatever it is. There's some kind of like underlying filter that's lodged as a belief in our mind that got in there really early, and we can't really see it because it's just how we see the world. It's just the frame, the context, the glasses through which we see everything. And that's gonna create, we're going to create a reality that matches that. And so as long as we're within that box, we can be working on it and working on it and working on it and working on it for fucking ever, and nothing happens, right? So that's why, like, we need to address that and like unpeel, like, what, I mean, really just like get conscious awareness on like, what is that filter? Mm-hmm. And then that starts to unravel stuff for us. And sometimes it takes a little bit of digging, right? But it always ends up there.
Yeah, I would imagine there's that aha moment for someone who goes in thinking, I'm going to learn something tactical and practical, and yet on in that process, they uncover like, whoa, this is so much bigger than that. Oh yeah. And have those light bulb moments. I mean, that's tremendous to be able to come alongside somebody and help them on that part of the journey, because that's life changing, right?
Yeah. Exactly. I had a client she was on food stamps. So Simplero, we have the software, and then we have coaching. So Simplero Academy. I had a coaching client she was on food stamps, and she wrote me that she couldn't afford like $8 to get her dog's nails clipped. She couldn't afford to buy new socks. Like, she was really scrambling, but she was so determined. She ended up borrowing $1,500 from her mom so that she could join the coaching program for just 1 month. And in that month, she made more than that investment back. I think close to double the investment back in that 1 month from like literally food stamps and nothing. And while she was there, she was like, other stuff came up, like something about her relationship. And this is not a relationship coaching program, but what the fuck shows up that's preventing you from doing your business? Like, let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. And so we did. And it was like, I helped her. She had all these therapists and diagnoses about being, I forget, bipolar or borderline, like all this stuff. And I just helped her just peel away all these fucking labels and just see reality, just see herself, and not like put herself in that box that I am this, but just fucking be you. Like, because those are all just like roles that we've learned to play because we got rewarded from them in some way. They made us feel significant or worthy or connected or safe or whatever they do, right? And so we don't need to hold on to them. And she had a moment of like, I can't believe I'm getting this from a software company.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, welcome to Simplero. Like, this is how we roll.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Are there any other like resources that you're thinking about creating, or things that you're looking forward to going, here's something that's a need that I see that we need to address?
The whole, all of this, like, whether it's business coaching, life coaching, all of those things. What's fascinating about this world, right, is that, or this type of business, is it's driven by that. All personal growth is pretty much driven by this underlying feeling that we're not good enough, right? We all have that. We all have a version of that. I'm not rich enough, or beautiful enough, or successful enough, or smart enough, or slim enough, or fat enough, like whatever it is. And there's a reason why. Like, this happens. So when we were born, years 0 to 1 is generally all dopamine. It's all like, mama and little baby, and like there's right brain to right brain contact and dopamine. It's awesome. It's awesome. And then around between 1 and 2, we start to get mobile, right? We can crawl and we can walk maybe, and we can get into danger. And then the adults or our parents are going to be like, no, stop, don't do that, right? And now it goes like dopamine from adventure, this is exciting, to like, no, stop that, and like noradrenaline, like, oh, like total crisis inside. And then for most of us, if we don't get caught, if we don't get handled in that moment and carried back to dopamine, back to connection, it's like, then we have, like, it sticks with us as shame. It's like, I am wrong. My behavior was wrong, but I am wrong. And like, I need to behave this way to be loved so that I'm safe. And if I don't, I'm wrong, and I'll be like unsafe, right? I won't get love and I won't be safe. And so it creates that split inside of like the good me and the bad me. And that's what creates that, like, oh, I need to be better, like do more of the things, like be the nice girl, or the smart boy, or like whatever the hell it is, right? And so that becomes the driving force for personal development. Like, how do I win friends and influence people, or like fitness trainers, or like, business coaching and make money, all these things, right? And then where it then turns into a spiritual journey is we realize that no amount of money or fitness or whatever the hell it is ever going to make that feeling go away. Because it's always, we all have that, like, oh, like now now I have that body that I wanted. Now I want a little more, like a little better. Right? Like the bar just keeps moving, because it's not about that, because it's about a wound in our personality that's just part of how the personality is wired. And the only way to step out of that is in the spiritual realm, where we're eternal souls and none of the shit matters. Like, we just are. And so like, people come in because they want that thing, and then we help them see, yeah, that's great. And I want you to have that. Don't get me wrong. Like, I want you to be rich and have that body and have all the things. I just don't want you to think that when you get that, you're going to feel enough. I want you to feel enough today, because then it's going to be so much easier for you to create those things out of that overflowing of enoughness and completeness and love. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah.
You know, it's a hard thing, I think, to get people to look that deep a lot of times, because so much of the world around us tells us it's, you know, have the body that you want, or have the job that you want, or have the relationship you want, or all the things. And like you said, you can chase those things and even at times attain those things, but then there's always something else because you
Yeah.
haven't addressed the underneath of that.
Yeah.
You know, have you seen where maybe besides the story you just shared, is there another story or an example that you can think of where somebody really dove deep and it made that impact? They got it, the aha moment, and what that did to them?
I feel like I mean, it happens a lot it happens all the time in like big and small ways where it's that for me, I love that moment where it's like, oh, I thought it was about, this, but I realized it's really about this other thing, right? Like it's like, oh shit, like all of this is available to me. I was inside this little box, but now like the world gets so much bigger. Um, yeah, I was a lot. One theme that comes up a lot is around like money fear, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I need to make some money. Like I'm just gonna, where's the money going to come from? Like I need to make some money now. And it's like, and getting people to realize that the only moment that exists is right now. The future only exists in your mind. And right now you're creating an image in your mind of not enough money, which then scares you right now, which then robs you of resources to be effectively deal with and create the future that you want. And like it's only exists in your mind. Right this moment, you have everything that you need. Right? You are alive, you're breathing, you're here. You have exactly as much money as you need. You have everything. Everything is like perfect. Like it's nothing needs to be different in this moment. And trust that's going to be the same the next moment. Let me put it a different way, right? So if we think that we are wrong in some way, or that we have ever done something wrong, then we'll also be afraid that we might do something wrong in the future, or something might be wrong in the future. But when we realize that you've never done anything wrong, you just did what you did, and those things have consequences, but none of it was wrong, morally wrong. It's a very different energy. Once you realize nothing you've ever done was wrong, and nothing that is in your life right now is wrong, then you stop being scared of making mistakes, because there are none, right? If nothing you've ever done was ever wrong, nothing you will do will ever be wrong. You can't fuck it up. You literally can't fuck it up. And you will always be in a perfect place that you need to be, no matter what the fuck happens. You will. That's how life works. That's the truth. Now, we can relax and we can be like, all right, what do we want to do? What do we want to do? But now you get to do it from a completely different energy, because when you're stuck in that state, it's like, there's just not enough energy to create anything, to change anything. And so you'll stay. That's what I see. That's what I've done for years and years and years. And that's what I see other people do as well. And it's something that's only really kind of landed for me in the past, let's say 3 months. We have those. I've always been, not always, but since I started this work some 20 years ago, I've gotten pretty good at being aware of like my emotional state. But what I'm noticing now is that there's almost like an energetic state that precedes the emotional state, that precedes the thoughts and feelings and everything that I have. And if I'm in that kind of neutral zone where I'm working on it, but I'm working on it from a place of like something's wrong, I will be working on it for fucking ever. And then something happens and my energy shifts, and all of a sudden, like like nothing is wrong. Nothing needs to be worked on. And then we're in creative land, right? Back to the whole theme here, right? We can create whatever the fuck we want. An example is like in relationship, my wife and I, it's like we've been married for 13 years and there's been, ups and downs and lots of things like, it happens over 13 years. And I would have this tendency to be like, well, I'm dissatisfied with this and I'm dissatisfied with that. And honey, we need to talk about and we need to work on this. And like, let's do some like work on it. Right. Versus when that energy shifts and I'm just like, I just love myself, my life, everything about it. And I'm just fucking full on. Like I adore her. I worship her. Like there's not a thing that I would change about her whatsoever. I'm the same person. It's just that shift in energy. Right.
Yeah.
And when I'm there now shit can actually happen because that energy is contagious. Right. And now like she behaves differently because I am in a different state. And like all the things that we were working on, I was like, none of that shit matters. Yeah. And the same thing, whether it's business or health or whatever it is.
It's interesting as you're talking about that. I'm thinking I've experienced that on a level where I've thought about in these terms. When you identify with the struggle and the striving too much, that becomes how you see yourself, how you see life, and it's self-perpetuating.
100%.
And it's never getting out of the struggle. It's never getting out of that. I got to strive. I got to work more. I got to work harder. I got to do more.
Yeah.
And what I found is detaching from that and realizing like, no, that's not who I am. That may be an experience I'm having at the moment, but kind of like you said, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a bad experience. It could be a learning opportunity. If I'm dealing with the emotional end of things properly, right? And then it's realizing, oh, I'm free then to actually engage in a different level and not identify with the struggle. And if those old stories, old narratives, if that loop thinking wants to come back in, to keep addressing it, and some people, I guess you can call it mindset, you can call it affirmations, those kind of things certainly are helpful practices, I think. And once you identify these things, then putting in a new script that helps you identify really here's what's truly going on and here's who I am and here's how I need to, yes, feel my feelings in this moment, but also here's really where I need to identify and the things I really need to address in this moment.
Yeah. One of my mentors, Gay Hendricks, he said, lose your fascination with your problems. And it was just like, I didn't understand it as I do now, back then, but it was like, yeah. And then like, for me, I was like, I was born strangled in my own umbilical cord and then put in an incubator and this thing. And then I had this happen. I was bullied in school and blah, blah, blah. And then my mom did this, my dad did that, my brother, all that shit. And like, none of it's wrong, right? There's truth to it. And then it's helped shape us. It's just that none of it matters. Like when we shift into that other state and the job then it becomes for us to notice what is it that causes us to shift into a higher energy state where none of the shit matters and what kind of pulls us down. And I do think that some of the things that can pull us down, like for me, like I very much had that thing about like I did something wrong, like from like, fuck, I even fucked up my fucking birth. Like I did that wrong, right? Like that was my filter. And so that was like when my thoughts started to go that way. I was like, oh shit. I was out at dinner with some friends and like couples with my wife and another couple. And I had a great time. We laughed so hard. And then I was like, oh, was I too much? And did I take up too much like space? And like, oh, it's like, and then just like that whole thing, like that was the hook in me to be like, I did something wrong. And so we'll have these hooks that can pull us down in energy. So it's great, like unhook those things, right? But really what matters is like getting into that state. I know one of the things with my team is that for me, looking at numbers and metrics, right? Having my team look at numbers and metrics and then tell me if there's something I need to know. And then we can brainstorm and problem solve, right? That's awesome. Doing quarterly planning, having my team do quarterly planning and ask me questions, and then I can coach them on the process and what's important to me and sort of high level vision for the company and all that stuff. High energy, right? So
yeah. It's important to know that about yourself and surround yourself with structures and systems that support that, for sure. We're at the top of our time already. And I've so appreciated our conversation around these things. These are certainly deeper things that I think are important that we shed light on, and that most people probably walk around not even thinking about. So
can I just, you asked the question of like, if I'd seen like resistance, if people are okay to talk about it. What I've noticed is that for me in the early days, I had adopted this mindset from my mom. Like my mom was kind of a spiritual person and my dad was not. And so my mom would be reading Wayne Dyer and like Shakti Gawain and things like that. And she would hide it from my dad. And so I adopted some of that where like, oh, the spiritual, but it's not like, it's like, don't be too public. So the more that I've just embraced that, I'm like, this is who the fuck I am. And if you like it, great. If you don't, funny enough, my experience is that everyone's into this pretty much, right? Because like these are universal themes, right? It's we all have the same wiring. So again, we end up projecting ourselves, like our life is a complete reflection of our own like mind, our own beliefs, our own being.
Well, if someone's listening today and they're like, I really love what you're saying, Calvin, I need to know more, I want to connect with you, where can people go to connect with you and to find out more? Best
place to go is to my Instagram. And again, why Instagram? Because they have a really good chat and we can actually have intimacy there. We can chat, we can talk. So yeah, go to my Instagram, Calvin Correli, CalvinCorreli. It's a little tricky, 2 R's, 1 L. And then follow me there and then DM me, tell me you saw me on the Creative Chats podcast, so I know where you come from. If you are a coach or course creator or someone in that realm, like what we do better than anyone is help coaches and trainers, mentors, educators, whatever you want to call yourself, create a thriving business without burning out. Because that's something I see a lot of people, they're givers and they want to help other people and they work themselves so thin that they end up burning out, which is a shame. Because I really think that the biggest gift that you have to offer is your energy and your vibration, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not the information. That's just kind of the excuse for us to get together and have those moments of intimacy. It's really how you show up that's important. So that's why it's so important that you create a business and a life for yourself where you have that energy to offer. And that's really what we do better than anyone. So I have put together I did a video for my people a few months back about the simple, I'm all about making things simple. That's why it's called Simplero, but the simple 3 steps to 3 levels, kind of 3 prongs to get to a consistent 10K a month as a coach. And so happy to share that video with you. So just DM me the words or the keyword 10K, and I'll just mail you the link to that. But yeah, hit me up on the DMs on Instagram and let me know what you saw me here and what resonated.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for our time today, Calvin. And I can't wait to see what else that you do and other places you show up and all the people you help. I want to say thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I love what you're doing here. I love the conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening today. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, leave a rating and a review. It really helps this podcast be seen and heard by others.